The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
To On Trial, where we debate the merits of your favorite movies. Hope you're ready, Hollywood, because you're on trial.
Oh, yes. Welcome to the Jazz Courtroom. No. All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Harry T. Stone presiding. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On Trial, the podcast where we debate the merits of your favorite movies. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. Joining me tonight is my brother from another mother, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He is the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be. Making his home in Kansas City, Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at a lean 190 pounds, it's Sean Comer.
Y'all better be thankful that I didn't rise for the judge, because you would find out just how traditionally pantsless I am. I keep the old ways of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Speaking of pantless, back from his journeys around the world in 180 days, ladies and gentlemen, because we're talking sci-fi, here is the man with the plans, David Wright. How do you do, sir?
I come from systems, cities, and peoples to this place. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong show about people in the computer.
It's good to have you back, Dave.
Good to be back.
So tonight, we are, in fact, talking Tron Legacy from 2010, gearing up for Tron Ares, which comes out this Friday. When Tron Legacy hit theaters in December of 2010, Disney wasn't just chasing nostalgia. They were reviving one of the strangest, most ambitious sci-fi concepts ever put to film. The original Tron from 1982 was an oddball marvel, a film that predated the internet, visualized life inside a computer, and essentially invented the digital aesthetic that every cyberpunk movie would later borrow from. But it flopped, as all things not in their right time do. Critics didn't understand it, audiences didn't know what to do with it, and Disney shelved the franchise for nearly 3 decades. By the late 2000s, though, The Matrix had rewritten the rules of digital mythology, and cyberpunk had gone mainstream. Enter Joseph Kosinski. He's doing a Star Wars. A former architect and commercial director who understood that audiences no longer needed an explanation for cyberspace, that what they needed was a myth. He took the bones of Tron and rebuilt it as a sleek, reflective meditation on perfection, legacy, and control. Tron Legacy opens with the son of the original film's hero, Sam Flynn, played by Garrett Hedlund, tracking down his long-missing father, Kevin Flynn, played again by Jeff Bridges. Inside the grid, he discovers his father's creation gone wrong. Clue, that's capital C, capital L, capital U, a digital clone obsessed with building the perfect system. It's a simple setup, but beneath the glossy surface it's running on mythic circuitry. This is Star Wars dressed in neon. The fallen apprentice who turns on the master. The hermit in exile. The reluctant heir. The corrupted utopia that must be destroyed. But Kosinski didn't stop there. The movie is also steeped in Matrix-era philosophy. The grid is a closed digital world where programs question their own existence and free will. Echoes of Ghost in the Shell and its idea of the ghost inside the shell. The ISO, spontaneously generated programs who embody imperfection, are basically digital souls. When Clue wipes them out, it's not just genocide, can't you see? It's genocide in the first degree. It's a purge of unpredictability, a metaphor for what happens when technology tries to erase humanity's messiness. Visually, Legacy is a revelation. Kosinski's background and design gives the film an almost architectural precision. Clean lines, symmetrical compositions, and luminous geometry. The costumes by Michael Wilkinson and Christine Bilsland Clark are the natural evolution of Sid Mead's original designs. Less 8-bit, more haute couture. The Daft Punk score completes it, a symphony of analog and digital textures that turns every light cycle race and disc battle into an electronic opera. The soundtrack didn't just complement the movie, it outlived it. Even people who forgot the plot still remember the sound. Of course, not everyone was impressed. Critics said it was style over substance, that the script sounded like it was written by people who'd never heard of Google. And my son Jonas said it best. This sounds like nobody who wrote it had heard of the internet. My son's a genius, and he's not wrong. The movie's world feels trapped between decades, a pre-internet understanding of computers filtered through post-Matrix aesthetics. It wants to be a parable about creation and control, but it speaks in the language of a system that never updated its firmware. And yet, that's what makes Tron Legacy fascinating. A film out of time, retro and futuristic at once. It borrows the mythic scaffolding of Star Wars, the digital theology of the Matrix, and the existential heartbeat of the ghost in the shell that feeds it all through Disney's obsession with legacy and inheritance. Less about coding, more about parenting. Kevin Flynn's sin isn't technological, it's eternal. He created a son and a digital double, and he failed both of them. So tonight, dear hearts, come into the courtroom and on trial. We're revisiting Tron Legacy, a movie that never quite fit its own circuitry, but so pulses with ambition and vision. As Tron Ares looms on the horizon, promising to drag this digital mythology into a new decade, it's worth asking, was Legacy a misfire, or was it ahead of its time? Did it glitch? We just failed to understand the program. So load up the disc, power up those goddamn light cycles, and let's head back to the grid. David, thank you for staying with me through that long intro. Why are you here, besides sci-fi?
Well, the original Tron was one of my dad's favorite movies growing up, so it was on TV quite a bit, which I didn't really think much of at the time because it's just, another movie that Dad watched. It was a bit later on that I kind of learned a bit about like how it was the first film to like really use CGI as for special effects, and oh boy, was it ahead of its time there.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Looks better than a lot of the movies that they use CG nowadays.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for stylization. But anyway, so yeah, it was always kind of an interesting concept. What if you could go inside a computer and all the programs would be like living like their lives, and
it's like early Pixar, right? It's like, what if we give personalities and souls to inanimate objects?
Yeah, it's like, hey, we don't really have the technology and the skill yet to do people, so let's do toys instead, so it doesn't look like crap. really, the reason why they did toys.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but so yeah, and eventually when Legacy came out, I was like, okay, I like Neutron, and like saw the trailers, like, oh, this looks cool, and then I went into to see the movie and was sort of blown away. And yeah, do you want me to just launch right into my thoughts on the film, or
give me half a second? Let me get Sean in just real quick. Did you like the film when it came out? Yes or no?
You're asking me if I liked the film when it first came out?
David, did you like it?
Okay. A short answer, yes.
Wonderful. I love it when you're on the show, David.
Yeah.
Sean, did you see Tron Legacy when it came out?
Not when it came out, but my good friend Jess was a huge fan of the soundtrack. And as yet, I at that point really hadn't kind of glommed on to Daft Punk quite like I did in the aftermath. But, and like you said, the soundtrack is what everybody remembers about this movie. Yeah. And with good fucking reason. Because it's really one of the greatest albums Daft Punk ever put out, mostly because it went so far beyond anything else they'd ever made. When I heard it, it blew me away because as passingly familiar with Daft Punk as I was, I kind of had this expectation of what it was going to be, and it only really lived up to that on a track or two. And the rest of it, it wasn't what I expected, and it was even better. Now that I've watched it, my opinion is actually kind of that I know what critics are trying to say they wanted out of this movie. They wanted something that was really going to be super steeped in real computer science. You say you want that, but the problem is that can get real fucking boring and real fucking on the nose real fucking quick.
It's kind of like saying, I wish that Top Gun was like realistic air combat. It's like, okay, but you're
no,
not any
you
other
absolutely
airplanes.
don't. No, it's the problem with it is I watched the trailer for Tron Ares, and it made me not want to see the movie at all because I can watch it and I can just tell how fucking on the nose that movie is going to be with its attempted commentary on the proliferation of AI. And anybody who has ever seen a Disney movie where they're trying to do a commentary knows how this is going to go. And frankly, I'm not interested because everything I get the feeling they're going to try to say, I've already heard said better by someone else, someplace else. I am okay with Tron just being bugfuck nanners computer fantasy that has only minimal roots in actual computer and electronic architecture. I am A-okay with this. And that's kind of what made it fun for me, is just being able to escape into what if this was actually how computers functioned on the inside, and not having someone trying to be the smartest person in the room trying to say something that they're not remotely intelligent or versed enough to actually say. If I want to hear about computer architecture and AI and how systems and networks function, guys, I'm doing about 8 to 10 hours of classes in Coursera per week right now.
We reviewed
to kind of fill my brain with that.
We reviewed the first Tron movie a couple of years ago. I have to go back and revisit it. I'll probably pull it for a TikTok later this week. But I remember saying at the time, David, how I remember saying, first of all, like one, it was way ahead of its time. It handled Tron, but it handled computers like an otherworldly, fantasy.
Yeah,
because that was what they kind of were at the time. Yeah, I really understood them.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was kind of making the same point that Sean was about to make. Like if you go back to when the movie was made in like 1982, computers were this strange thing that like was very new on the like arcades were like, holy crap, look at this stuff. Like you look at Flynn's arcade in the original film, and there's like people like wearing suits and all dressed up to the nines. Like this was an event. We're going to the arcade. Like this is crazy, weird, out there, cutting edge stuff that people just was so nuanced. And like most people had no idea anything about how computers work, whereas now we all have supercomputers in our pockets. And
that was the funny thing.
Yeah,
when Jonas and I were this is the last thing I want to say, then we can get into talking about the actual movie. When Sean and Jonas and I were watching it, he's watching it as from the perspective of an 11-year-old in 2025. So his comment, like, did anyone who worked on this movie know what Google was or the internet? I'm like, it was 2010. The internet was like 10 years old by that point.
I would also point out that in the movie itself, the computer that the grid is on is an ancient computer.
Yeah.
Like, like it was, this technology did not exist. There's even that bit where Sam's talking with Flynn and he's explaining Wi-Fi. He's like, oh, Wi-Fi. Yeah, I thought of that in the 90s. And,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I said to him, like, you got to understand. I told him, he said, you got to understand. This movie is one operating from very much a fantasy perspective within the kind of like Star Wars, and I brought that up a lot while we were watching it, where it's a science fiction aesthetic with basically where the bones of which of everything else is fantasy. The other thing I was telling him, I was like, Jonas, this isn't really the original Tron. Was definitely made for people who were into computers, but that was back when I was a kid. People into computers were not a lot of people.
No. cool.
Like my dad was part of a very small niche group
Such a niche hobby
of Americans that were like into personal computers. That was what I was trying to get to. Because again,
my dad as well, by the way, and he loved that movie.
Wonder why we're all talking
he could
together.
probably tell you all the things that are wrong about like computer science, but no, it was just, hey, cool, like
I said
light
to him,
cycles.
I said to him, and I'll say this, and then we'll get into the movie. When I was doing acting, I was on the set for Pirates of Silicon Valley, and the scene that I'm in is a trade show where they're introducing the Apple computer, and the doors are open, and I'm part of the group of people running towards the Apple thing, the Apple setup. What I was trying to explain to Jonas, and I think what really sets up Tron really well, is most of the known world didn't know what home computing was or what it would be used for. As a matter of fact, a lot of manufacturers didn't really see what the use of Apple computers was going to be. Now you can't picture your life without one. But back in the early 80s, it's hard to imagine the average human being, the average American, suburban American, needing a home computer. And
when I was growing up, a computer, owning your own computer, a PC, let alone something like a laptop, was a luxury purchase. Nowadays, I think we are fully into the era where owning some kind of computer is like owning an appliance as much as having a washing machine or a dishwasher.
If Google Glass had worked better, most people would have that by now. Like, it was a little too soon, but I would guarantee you within like the next 10 to like 20 years, David, like where people are going to have, I'm looking at everyone now with the fucking earbuds, like especially if you're young, you never have those things out of your fucking ears. We're going to have like implants. We're going to have like wearables. Like the Google Glass thing it was ahead of its time, but there's a time coming where that's going to be just a part of life. David,
we'll probably have smart glasses in the next 2 years that we'll have like projection on the lenses and all that stuff.
What did you think of Tron Legacy? Let's get into the movie.
Okay. The shortest review I could give of it is the best 90-minute music video you will ever see in your life.
Okay. Expound.
To go to of course, I don't think we can gush enough about how incredible Daft Punk's soundtrack to that movie was. I didn't pay much attention to it beforehand, but like I downloaded that thing within 10 minutes of getting out of the theater. And to this day, like if I ever have to test any audio equipment, that's my go-to is that soundtrack. So yeah, not only one of their best albums. I'm not that familiar with Daft Punk's discography, but probably one of the best soundtracks ever written. I would put it on that list.
It's funny. I leaned over to Jonas and I was like, I will now sell all 3 EPs of the Beta Band we were listening to, which I understand is not Daft Punk, but go on.
Yeah, but so anyway, so yes, soundtrack absolutely fantastic, amazing. Visually, the film looks also amazing. Like the way that they updated a lot of the original designs from the original Tron was great. Like the way that they used the colors and the circuit board motifs on all the characters. I just thought they took that idea from the original film, which kind of seemed a bit rough, but again, kind of goofy, but what you would expect at the times with what they had, and just really refined it and really just nailed the aesthetic to it. It's almost like looking at like Star Trek Next Generation as opposed to the original series, as opposed to like, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. Whereas before, that's all they could afford to do with their knowledge of technology at the time. So,
can I tell you how much I love the first one though? Yes, the second one looks sleeker and cooler. It is. The second one is absolutely the prequel trilogy in Star Wars in terms of it looks cleaner and it looks, you know what I mean? But like, I miss the original Tron sets and costumes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I actually don't own Tron Legacy on Blu-ray. I own Tron and Tron Legacy on Blu-ray in the package together. So like the two are inseparable. Like I'm not I'm not boo-hooing the original Tron at all. But I have to say, like they nailed the aesthetic for this film. And to this day, one of the greatest regrets of my purchases in life is that I did not buy the art book when I saw it on shelves, because that thing's worth like hundreds of dollars now. But I digress. Wow. But it's just Yeah, like the light cycles look cooler. They have like flying like light wings or light jets now, which is airplanes make everything better.
It's gotta be on your tombstone. David Wright, loving husband, devoted father. Airplanes make everything better.
Just about, yeah. Yeah, the other thing that could possibly rival an airplane is a giant robot. But anyway, we're getting off topic there. But to the rest of it, my more negative point is saying it's the best 90-minute music video you ever see is also like, because like there's not really much else there.
Yeah,
there's nothing there, but yeah, the story was, I was kind of a bit disappointed when I got, it's like, oh, it's just like we have to get from point A to point B so you can get out of the thing. Oh, okay, well that's not very exciting. The first movie was all about, he has to like get to the master control program, and he has to like, get the evidence that his games were stolen from him, and revalidate like he's the real genius behind the company, and it's this dystopian dictatorship in the computer. Like that was all like there were stakes, and it was interesting. This is just like, yeah, okay, so yeah, things are really bad in here, so you need to get to the outside so you can stop it. Oh, all right. Like the whole ISO thing just kind of came out of nowhere. It's like there's just like spontaneously generating computer programs like that. That never really made sense. I think it's one of those things where you have this really neat idea of like, we create everything inside a computer, and if you could go down inside the computer, you would be like a god to the people inside the computer, like to the programs. Like that is a really interesting idea, and to sort of see it from like the program's perspective versus the user perspective, and how that all interacts. Like there's some really neat stuff that you could chew on. Like there's one bit where like they're busting out of the nightclub after they've been betrayed, and Flynn just walks in there, and he just like turns everything off using his user powers, and you just see like some of the programs just dropping to their knees as he walks by them, like as if they're in the presence of a god. And then you have other programs that are like, screw you, we hate you, this is all your fault. And it's just, it's kind of like what I said about the live action Ghost in the Shell film. It's like the film's not bad. It's just, you could do so much more with this idea and this world, and you didn't.
Yeah, this needed like real computer engineers to kind of sit with storytellers, and they kind of brainstorm an idea, and then the script writers take that brainstorm and make a script out of it. Robert's very fond of saying your movie's only as smart as your writer, and if your writers are not, or they're fine fantasy storytellers, but they're not really computer engineers, the movie misses an element that it sorely needs.
Yeah, I mean, you could pretty much sum up almost the last 20 years of like visual media as in like everything is great but the script. Like actors are all great, production design's all great, music's great, just the script's bad. This script, it's okay. Like it's not a bad script, it's just not great. It's bland, exactly.
I get a little bit skeptical about something, and that's the idea that having actual computer engineers on this would have improved it. Because, and please try to follow me here. I think about the times when the two different movies were made. As we said, the first Tron came out at a time when tinkering with computers and a lot of electronics was very much a niche hobby. The cool factor was would probably be more comparable to the AV Club in Stranger Things than anything else. Or the two main character dorks in Weird Science. Tron Legacy came out right around that time when the douchebag tech bro was starting to rule the earth, where they weren't, these kind of humble, iconoclast outsiders with this hobby they were really into that nobody else really understood or saw the appeal of, or even saw the practicality of. This was the time when a lot of your techies around that time were starting to become the pretentious, unbearable assholes that constantly had to try to hold themselves up as the smartest person in the room. Almost out of a kind of resentful inferiority complex. And I think that would have really kind of colored the script in ways that would have made the movie downright insufferable. Like in the ways that I can already kind of, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You guys know I'm always okay with admitting when I'm wrong about something. I kind of circle back to Tron Ares, and I think, God, this is already starting to reek of where that movie is going to go. And I'm just afraid that it's going to go from a movie, from a franchise and a saga that's about, the fantasy of the inner workings of computers and what it would be like, into something that is just becoming really belligerent in its shoehorned, forced comedy. I keep using the term on the nose, and I'm trying to come up with a better way to describe it. But it's just kind of what I'm being left with.
David, I wanted to ask you a couple of follow-up questions before I turn it over to Sean for Sean's further thoughts on the movie. My big problem with it, aesthetically, it's a feast for the eyes. Set design, costumes, all of that stuff all looks great. My problem is the dialogue and the plot. We said it before, it's bland. It's and something that my son and I were talking about as the movie was going on is there are long exposition and dialogue dumps. And when I think back to the original Tron movie, yes, the original Tron was dialogue heavy, but it was very much carried by, I think, Jeff Bridges' charisma at the time. Whereas you're stuck with Garrett Hedlund, and Jeff Bridges doing his best Alec Guinness impression. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the dialogue and the lack of action. Not to mention, this will be the last point that I want you to address. Part of the reason the Matrix works, besides the aesthetic and costuming and everything else, is those are some of the most memorable action pieces you're going to see in the history of film. In Reloaded, you have the ghost car chase, you have bullet time, you have stuff that for years guided the making of action movies. There's nothing like that in this. And this is as plain Jane as sci-fi action gets. That's my sort of prosecution of this movie. Your thoughts, David?
For the dialogue, I can't really fight you much on that one because it's hard for me to remember any particular line from the movie. It's not really a good one-liner film. Yeah. Mind you, I can't really think of much from the original Tron other than end of line.
My favorite line in the whole movie. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Or I fight for the users. That's kind of about it.
Jesus Christ, Tron yelling out "I fight for the users" at the end of this is as bad as the last Alien movie, where the black kid yells out "Get away from her, you bitch!" All wrong. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, well, that was kind of like him turning back to a good program, and
yeah, sure.
Yeah, will they ever pay that off in the next one? Geez, I hope so. But anyway, yeah, that was what there's a complaint. It's why they made Tron a bad guy in this one?
It's a surprising lack of Tron in the Tron movie.
Yes. Though I mean, cool. I think there was some good action scenes. I think that the the light cycle battle that still holds up as being a pretty good scene. I like the way they kind of built on the original, and again the updated aesthetic really benefits from that. I did think that once they get into the light jets at the end of the film, all airplanes make things better, jokes aside, it was like a nice, visually good, imaginative action scene. Is it one of the best in cinematic history? No, but it was solid, and I really kind of respect them doing that kind of stuff, whereas now where you can just CGI just everything all over the screen, and it's just I get it, it's more of everything, but it just feels so tiring and less. You watch the original Star Wars and the Death Star run, and it's by today's standards very simple.
Yeah,
it's just a few ships here and there. I'm talking pre-special editions before Lucas threw a bunch of extra crap they didn't need to in it, but it's simple, but I understand where everyone is. I understand what's going on. I understand the stakes. You get to The Rise of Skywalker, and you have every single damn ship in the galaxy show up at the end fight, and it's just like, I don't care.
Do you like this shot? What do you think of it? Not enough shit on screen. Put more Star Destroyers in there.
Yeah, and it's just like lasers and everything, and okay, now we're riding horse things on a ship. It's like, say what you will about the original trilogy, like it was the action sequences were simple but inventive.
Yeah.
And I think that's what audiences are missing out on, and we could use more of. And in Tron Legacy, I would say like they did do simple but inventive pretty good in their action scenes. Like I would still go back and watch those, but yeah, it's kind of a dull slog pretty much after you get Finn escaping from Sam and Cora escaping from the arena up until you get to like the battle at the end with Clue's ship. Like, yeah, it's kind of fairly dull.
You have to have a lot of investment in the characters, or at the very least investment in the actors. And I like Olivia Wilde just fine, but I didn't find Garrett Hedlund. That's the last thing I want you to respond to, and then I'll go over to Sean. The movie rests entirely on the relationship between Jeff Bridges and Garrett Hedlund. And if you as an audience member buy into Garrett Hedlund or you don't, I don't. That makes this movie a hard watch. So the only other thing left is either his chemistry with Olivia Wilde or his chemistry with Jeff Bridges, and I'm not interested in any of that either. So my question to you is, did you like Garrett Hedlund in this thing? And was there any actor or performance in this you're like, well, at least this I can kind of bite into?
Yeah, I would say his performance was serviceable. Like it's again, it goes back to your comment on it being kind of bland. Is like it wasn't a bad performance, and it wasn't really a great performance either.
Right.
He just showed up, he did the job. He didn't look like he was acting, but he also didn't really give anything special. I'd probably say like Jeff Bridges. He was probably the best overall actor in it. I mean, it's Jeff Bridges, and because he was doing like double duty as Clue and as Flynn. And I'm going to steal a bit from Movie Bob's review where he sort of said that you get old Flynn, and he's kind of playing like an Obi-Wan Lebowski type character.
It's quality.
Yeah, oh yeah, he hit the nail on the head with that. And then I guess as far as other performances that stood out, like Michael Sheen. Like I'm not again to steal some Movie Bob's line,
doing his best Willy Wonka.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not sure what he's playing, but he's playing the hell out of it.
Yeah, he's having a good time.
Yeah.
He's like, if the architect was a little, was a little fucking Willy Wonka. It's like it's an odd mesh together.
Yeah, let's take like the architect from the Matrix films, and then let's take Jeremy Irons from Dungeons and Dragons and kind of like meld the two together, and we just get okay. So like there's some like heady exposition, and also like. I don't think there's like a single piece of furniture left standing after that scene.
Yeah.
Like he's just like twirling that cane around. I think there's just like one scene where he just like starts like hissing at them.
I desperately wanted him to break into a merry rendition of the Candyman. It's just like so dancing. Sean, you ever go to a club or party and someone's got a movie on in the background? There's no sound. There's just a movie, and like it's cool to watch the movie while you're talking to friends or you're dancing or whatever, but like it makes a cool thing to watch, but you don't have to listen to it. That for me is Tron Legacy. What are your thoughts on this movie?
Okay, well, I got a few, and I'm going to try to organize them as best I can. I apologize in advance if they get a little bit scattershot. First off, I adored Michael Sheen. I would have loved to have seen his part in the movie maybe be a little bit bigger and a little bit more involved. I think that would, yeah, exactly. He was just taking that part and just milking it for all the vivid color it was worth. I think that Jeff Bridges' performance was really commendable because when I was watching it at first, I was kind of rolling my eyes because it felt like Jeff at first, to me anyway, when I first saw him as Flynn, I was kind of so focused on him. I'm like, God, this feels like self-parody. Jeff, you're better than this. Because he has kind of fallen into sort of that that kind of like Christopher Walken or Jeff Goldblum kind of kind of strata where you expect a very certain kind of performance out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing is, then I thought about it and I went, wait a second. No, this is actually kind of brilliant because yes, you know, he's Obi-Wan Lebowski, but at the same time, he's over here playing Clue as kind of this, you know, cold fascist program. And he's very icy and conniving and ruthless and charismatic in his own way.
There's also a bit of like bitterness in it too, I'd say.
A little bit of what?
A bit of bitterness in it towards Flynn.
Oh, more than a bit. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So I thought that was fun, but the problem is that becomes kind of wasted because there's so much going on in this movie and so many threads that if some of them would have been fortified just a little bit more, and some of the other ones would have been pruned away just a little bit more, this would have been so much more of a compelling story. Like there's kind of the sort of corruption of NCOM and kind of losing its way as a company. But that feels like it gets well and truly forgotten before Act 1 of the movie is over. Mm-hmm. I actually really enjoyed the scene where Sam goes in and fucks with the presentation at the launch of the new OS.
Best line in the movie is, here's a good line. It's like, yo, what is the difference between NCOM operating system 10 and from NCOM operating system 9?
Where he slapped a 12 on the box.
We changed the number from 9 to 10. It's like, that is just like the truest thing. Yeah, this is kind of just before that whole like tech bro thing exploded. And that was a bit more like, you know, old school Microsoft. Windows 10 support ends this month, by the way.
And you see, you could have fleshed that out better. And that would have been kind of a compelling extension of the true legacy of the first movie, but that didn't happen. If you really wanted to give this movie more of a cohesive, kind of thoughtful theme, there's that whole confrontation at the end between Clue and Flynn and Kevin, where if you had just kind of made the whole movie about that would have been a welcome injection of substance. Because really, to be honest, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the comparisons to The Matrix in a way. Because the thing is, people like to think of The Matrix as a tech movie, as a hacker thriller sometimes. And it's really not. It's a trans allegory that happens to be framed by an attempt at depicting hacker culture. Whereas, you know, it feels like Tron is much more actually rooted in fantasy computer science. You know, granted, it's like watching your average isekai anime and going, oh, this is how MMOs work. Got it. But still, it's at least fun. It's at least fun to watch. It's fun to just kind of suspend your disbelief, forget what you know about computer science, and just, like I said, just enjoy the fantasy for a little while. What else in terms of dangling threads? There's so many of them. It feels like really the years of, you know, estrangement and abandonment get resolved so quickly between Kevin and Sam that it's like, oh, but this was the meeting that I kind of had been waiting for so long. And it feels like Sam just came home from college and has been out of touch for a few months, and Kevin just wants to know how midterms went. You could have dove in to how Kevin feels when Sam relays how kind of computer science has changed the world that we live in, and how computer engineering, how many quantum leaps forward it has made in those intervening decades, and how computers as we know them would be absolutely unrecognizable to them. You could even throw in how video games have really changed culture. But part of the problem with the story is, I reflect on a video that I saw once by Nash from Radio Dead Air when he had his short-lived kind of fantasy movie review series, Here There Be Dragons. And he was talking about Willow. And he was saying that it's not that the story of Willow is bad. It's just a story that you've seen before. And he talked about how it pretty much checks just about every single box of Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. And as we alluded to earlier, that's kind of what Tron is doing. It's really following that blueprint. And movies that do that are not necessarily bad. There's this misconception among a lot of movie fans that it's so much easier to write a completely 100% original story structure than it actually is, because you're always going to, just because of human nature, you're almost always going to end up falling into that framework, whether you mean to or not. But what makes a difference, it's kind of like with slasher movies. It's not so much originality, it's the quality of your iteration. And how compelling is it? What do you do to kind of keep that interesting to people in the absence of it being so hard to do something, to find something completely original under the sun? We talk so much about so many fictional media on this channel, and it's the other common complaint is, oh God, with all the remakes, doesn't anybody have an original story anymore? Okay, sit down and go try and write one. I guarantee you that no matter how hard you try, you are going to
Simpsons did it.
Exactly. You are going to come up with a structure that someone else has already come up with in some way or another at some level, and it's not going to be completely original. And you're all of a sudden going to realize how hard it is to come up with a hook that makes something interesting. I would say that the nice thing about this is it feels like what, visually in a lot of ways, and also sometimes in terms of story, it feels like what the original Tron would have been if it hadn't been limited by the technology of its time and kind of some of the creative innovations in storytelling that have kind of arisen in the intervening years. So it's really hard. It's kind of, I'm conflicted. On the one hand, I want to be a little more hard on the movie for the fact that it kind of tried to cram too much into just over 2 hours. And it didn't just instead take a less is more approach where they took some of the more compelling ideas that they were clearly toying with and just stuck to those and really fortified those as much as they possibly could. Okay, again, let's do the wrestling comparison. You could have had a movie where you're Brock Lesnar somehow trying to find a way to take one or two core moves and managing to somehow make them interesting over the course of a 15, 20-minute match like he did at WrestleMania 31 with Roman Reigns. Where, yes, the vast majority of it is Brock Lesnar executing 3 or 4 suplexes again and again and again and again. But the way it's executed still makes for a compelling match. But on the other hand, this is the reason why I can't watch the Young Bucks, is because you're trying to cram every wrestling move ever invented and a bunch of other bullshit ones that probably never should have been attempted, and you're trying to work them in the same length of match. And yeah, everything's very pretty to look at, but you have nothing cohesive. You don't have a story. You have a stunt show. You have a Disney World ride. is what you have. You don't have a movie. And Tron Legacy is a very pretty ride. But it's not a story that I'm ever going to reflect on and say, man, I really remember that one character fondly, or I really remember that one speech, or that one line. The most I'm probably going to remember about it after that podcast is, I wish I had gotten more Zeus, and damn, that rehash of the light cycles was fucking awesome, even if it was pretty much telegraphed with Chekhov's Bugatti in the first reel of the fucking movie. I think that's about the gist of kind of most of my thoughts, and I kind of open myself up to any follow-up questions, really.
Well, David, I wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
I'm sitting there watching it with Jonas, and Jonas hadn't seen the first Tron movie yet. I told him his homework while he's with his mother this week is he has to watch the first Tron and watch Heat, because we didn't get to watch that either. However, we did watch Maximum Overdrive. More on that this Thursday. But he asked me how the first Tron movie goes, and again, I haven't seen it since Sean and I did the on trial on it a few years ago. But I remember more or less what that movie is. More to the point, and probably why the plot sticks with me as much as it does, is I can understand how that world worked. These were programs, and Flynn was put into the computer, and he's trying to figure out how to operate. He's not a program; he's a human, and that's kind of the whole movie. And it's all run by Master Control, which is this big program, and all of his henchmen that are little programs. And we're watching Tron Legacy, and this is my question to you. He was like, I don't understand how this world works. At one point, Cora gets dead or injured or both.
Mm-hmm.
And he's screaming at my 11-year-old son, screaming at the computer, she's a program, just fix her. It's not that hard. And therein lies my issue with this movie more than anything else, other than the blandness of it and things I commented on before, is whereas Tron, as weirdly ahead of its time as it was and aesthetically interesting, you also understood how that world operated. You understood the rules of that universe. They all but abandon that here, and this falls into a very modern, for the last 30 years actually, of movie making, where people are not careful or consistent or coherent in the world that they create. They just kind of operate under the principle, a wizard did it. That, I think, is this movie's ultimate undoing. It's hard to buy into a world that doesn't make any goddamn sense. And if you're like, can you give me an example? Yeah, Cora's an algorithm. She's an algorithm given body, because everything that exists in the computer is given body in this world, except that she goes through the portal and suddenly she's Barbie. She has a real world and a vagina and everything. I don't understand, David. I don't understand. Your witness, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think to get at it is, in the original Tron, they spent, I think, more time establishing the world and how it works. Like we see quite a bit more of the human world before we go into the digital world.
Yeah.
But we also see how that world interacts with the digital. But we see Alan programming the Tron program at his cubicle in NCOM. We see Dillinger at his desk talking to the Master Control program.
Yeah.
So we understand. Okay, we see Flynn playing the video games that he designed that Dillinger stole.
Fight for the users makes a whole lot of sense when you meet who the users are and how they use the program.
Yeah. But you also you see Flynn playing like the light cycle game. You see him playing the game where you have the recognizer, and he has to fight. And so when he goes, and also you see the scientists out there like digitizing like an orange.
Right.
So you understand. Okay, we have this technology to digitize things into the computer. And the programs are sentient and they can interact with their users.
Right.
And the Master Control program is this big malevolent program that can steal and mess with other programs, and that's like the big bad. So when you get to the point where like Flynn breaks in to try and like hack and get the evidence that his games were stolen, and the Master Control program pops up and it's like, I see you there, Flynn. And he starts taunting him. And it's like, oh, you're such a big program. It's like, I wonder how good you do.
What are you doing, Dave? This is highly irregular.
Yeah. And unfortunately, his terminal is like right in front of the laser, which is a
Right.
huge health and safety violation. But the movie has to happen. So when Flynn gets digitized, now we like have some idea of what's going on, and now it's and then the story can go. Like a lot of the things that happen inside that digital world are things that they talk about before he goes in, like
Right.
whatever, like Lori or the other program or that project she's working on is like the vehicle that they use to like transport themselves across the digital space kind of thing. One last thing I would say is like one neat thing about doing it inside the computer is that you don't know what the rules are. You can do something like, if we do fantasy, we understand fantasy, wizards, elves, dwarves, like, okay, yes, you can play around with like the lore of how the magic system works and yada yada yada, but it's still kind of, we know what the rules are. You go into space, same thing. We know what space is, we know how space works. You do a new movie set in space, it's still in space. But in a computer, like, what are the laws of physics in a computer? I don't know. They could be anything.
Yeah. Do we control all, if Cora gets injured, do we just turn it on and turn it off and she comes back to life again? I don't, to my son's frustration, that's why I talk about him a lot, because he's born and raised a film critic. So his insights to me, because again, he hasn't seen a lot of the other stuff prior to this. He can cut through things in a way that maybe some of us have difficulties with, because to him it's new. So when he's like, I don't understand, why can't they just bring her back to life? I don't have a good answer for him.
Yeah,
I have a good answer for why Gandalf comes back to you now at the turn of the tide. Yeah. I have an answer for why Obi-Wan can appear in ghostly form and Yoda can appear in ghostly form. I don't have a fucking answer for it. They can't have Korra come back to life.
Yeah, because in the original, like, Flynn didn't know he had superpowers in the computer. He kind of discovers that by accident. Like, he like just starts off like does something by accident. I think he like wrestles a guard and he finds that like it turns him red. It's like, okay, so now I look like one of the bad guys, and now I can sneak around. And as the movie goes on, he's like, well, maybe I can try doing this. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I can do that. And whereas in this film, it just kind of throws you right in, where you're kind of having to figure out in the present what happened in the past. Like, oh, okay, so Sam must be inside the computer. That's never established that what happened when he logged into the computer.
Sam can just kind of instantly do shit.
Well, Sam,
he's a Mary Sue.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he's a Gary Stu.
Well, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, because one, he's Flynn's son. He probably grew up like raised with all of Flynn's games and stuff, so he already has like some inbuilt knowledge of this stuff. But like when he goes into the games, like, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how a disc battle works. He kind of like has to like quickly like look around and see what's going on and figure it out. There's the one scene where they like give him like the bar to like turn into the light cycle, and he holds it like a lightsaber. He's like, okay, let's go. And like the DMC is like, he's like, what do I do with this? Like, let me give you a hint. Not that. And then everybody laughs at him. So yes, he's a quick study and he gets lucky, but again, like your main character dying in the first 30 minutes of the film isn't exactly a compelling story.
My last question to you, Sean, just really quickly, this has to do with costuming.
Sure.
Compared to the first movie, where because these are programs, they're all, they have helmets on, it was a little hard to tell sometimes which characters were which. You really had to pay attention to facial structure. But everyone's consistent. They all kind of have the same bodysuit. They all have the same like circuitry padding, and they all have to wear their helmets. What I hate about Tron Legacy, what I absolutely hate about it, is the way they treated the costumes in this. Because again, I'm not fully immersed in this is the computer universe when you have Garrett Hedlund running around with no helmet. His face, like everybody in Tron is blue or red. Their face included. Here, he's just a dude running around in a bodysuit. Even Korra with her Ghost in the Shell hair. Like, what are we doing with this movie? Where, and I know what the answer is, but I want you to talk about it. This is the Judge Dredd rule. We paid for your face. We're showing your face. Audiences get confused when you put hats on, so we don't know who people are anymore. It's Fozzie and Kermit. We don't look alike because you're not wearing your hat. Put your hat on, Fozzie. and and then so we do this movie, and he has to walk around looking like himself in a tracksuit. And it's like, this sucks. I hate it.
That was kind of the problem that I had with the big climactic dogfight chase with the reveal that Tron was now one of the drones.
Yeah.
And that's the fact that when he's buried under that very cookie cutter uniform, how do you keep track of which one is him? I lost track so many times of kind of where he was, because I was waiting for there to be some kind of development with his involvement in the fight. But it's so hard to really track that when he doesn't stand out. And that's the thing about having characters, is you need something to give them some kind of distinctive silhouette. Something that if you want your audience to really invest in, and this is the gamer in me, very much speaking. Because it's been a frequent problem with video game character design, is you have game characters that are immediately recognizable just from seeing an unfilled in silhouette. I can recognize Mario. I can recognize Sonic. I can recognize Donkey Kong, Samus Aran, Dante from Devil May Cry, the original Dante from Devil May Cry. We don't talk about that remake, that attempted reboot bullshit. I'm a big Mass Effect fan, and that's a game where you have multiple alien species, but there are characters within that species that, because of the way they're rendered, you could show them to me. I would immediately be able to pick out who that was. And in a way, playing a game is kind of the same importance as watching a movie. Is if you're looking at the screen and you're controlling your character, you have to be able to keep track of where certain characters are. And that's kind of critical. And the same thing goes for in the movie. If it's a mass fight scene and it's an action movie, it's important that I be able to immediately pick out fucking Iron Man, or I'm able to pick out the T-800, or I'm able to pick out Neo. There's nothing really so distinctive about anyone. And, Tron himself, the namesake of the fucking franchise, feels lost in the shuffle right up until you hear him say, "I fight for the users." And I get it. I get the fact that, the actor who originally played Tron probably can't go like he used to for very obvious reasons. But fuck me, you de-aged Jeff Bridges. You can't put that same technology to work on fucking Bruce Boxleitner?
Yeah, well, they did have him in one scene, like the flashback where Clue rebels, is they had him as young Tron.
Then do that for the rest of the movie, so that we can at least appreciate that the character is there, because otherwise, by that point, you're kind of starting to go, fuck, why did you even call this Tron?
Well, it's placed in the same universe.
Well, yeah, but you introduced the character early on in the movie, killed him off in a flashback. You reference that somehow we can clearly the characters can clearly pick out that it's him. Fuck knows how. Good eye, I guess.
He does have the Tron logo on his chest, though it is very small.
But
it took me a few watches to pick that up on that detail.
Because of that costuming, though, you have no means for that character to really emote and mean anything, except for that one shoehorned in line just to kind of give him just a little something, I guess.
Oh, he's the silent heavy.
But otherwise, everything else feels very tropey. Like they're really just trying to go with the exact aesthetic of kind of what every other futuristic cyberpunk drama at the time was doing. It feels like they're trying to do that, except for the fact that there were cyberpunk properties at the time were still able to be much more even prior to that. You look at something like Ghost in the Shell or Eon Flux, or if we're talking nowadays, Cyberpunk 2077. Everything kind of has a very certain distinct personality and look to it. And this just
Cora had Aeon Flux hair, not
yeah,
Ghost in the Shell hair.
Well, yeah, but again, that shows okay. You kind of had a start on something, and then you just kind of abandoned the one who had the most personality in the whole fucking movie was probably Zeus. He was the one who was probably the most. I think that was what made him the most fun to watch. Was just the fact that he stood out from everybody else. Even your main characters don't stick out that much, except for, I would argue Flynn the Elder, like you said, kind of doing his worst Alec Guinness impression.
David, you were trying to get in here.
Well, I would say that Clue was more of a memorable character too.
Maybe.
I mean,
but even then, he doesn't look that different from his drones.
Well, I think that certainly keeping the heads on all of the actors helped. A lot of the things the original film was a limitation of how they did the effects. Like they were all filmed in black and white, all the actors, and then they were colored in afterwards to get the blue and the orange glows on them. Again, the technology at the time that they had. But yeah,
hilariously, I looked at Tron Ares. Not a Tron listed in the cast. Not even a little bit.
I think there's a bit of controversy going on that. I think Bruce Sutter said something about not being in there. We'll see. I mean, it's not the first time a movie studio had lied in promotion to, show a surprise. Like, no, this character's definitely not showing up in this film. And then, oh, look, the character's totally in the movie.
Hey, look, it's Khan.
Yeah. Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch, he's definitely not Khan. Nope, no Khan in this movie. And then I am Khan. I'm sorry.
I mean, I want to pivot a little bit to bring up something else, though, and I would love to get both your thoughts on this, because I've realized something about Tron, and it's kind of why this movie I think never should have gotten a sequel in the first place. Tron kind of holds this place with a handful of other Disney movies, like I would throw out there The Black Hole and Flight of the Navigator, as movies that, of course, as we pointed out, they bombed at the box office, and they bombed with critics in a lot of cases, but they kind of developed this cult following among fans who really kind of appreciated what they were trying to do, and that kind of felt like someone was trying to make that rare movie that was for them and kind of stood out for that reason. It's kind of almost an era of Disney live action movies that were really pretty ambitious, but were probably too ambitious for their time. And now you go and you make a sequel, and unfortunately, in trying to dress it up and kind of trying to make it more modern, it doesn't stand out quite so much as trying to kind of do its own thing, safety of the formula be damned. It feels like you're trying to capitalize on the success of a cult favorite that wasn't supposed to be a success on any level, and it just kind of ended up happening organically. And then you kind of decided, well, okay, we can just kind of put everything to work and just make it happen all over again. But this doesn't have that kind of genuine soul of the original that came from that time when the nerds weren't cool, and it was that rare time when, kind of our ancestral people, our nascent nerds, were kind of getting that rare at bat to make the kind of movie that they wanted to watch. Now it feels like Disney is just trying to make the kind of movie that they feel like billions of people are going to want to watch, and it just comes across as really kind of disingenuous.
I guess my only response to that is I'm not going to fault Disney for making movies ahead of their time, which Tron was. I'm also not going to fault Disney for trying to self-correct when you do when you do a sequel, you know, we talk about this like it's like an only a recent modern problem, but it's not. It's been a problem for as long as there have been studios, which is they've got intellectual property sitting on the shelf. They got to do something with it. That's why they got rid of the Grand Prix, I think, ride it is at Disney World here in Florida, and they turned it into fucking Tron because they have the copyright. That's why. But here's what they're learning: you can't get people interested in the ride for some odd reason unless you release a film. So why is there Tron Legacy and why is there Tron Ares? Because they're trying to make as much interest in the stuff they've got on their shelves as possible. It's why Sean and I did a few years ago did a Country Bears review of the movie. Like there's always going to be that's why there was a Tomorrowland. That's why there was the Jungle Cruise. They're always going to try to. I'll give David a chance to respond to this, and we'll get out of here. They're always going to try to continue to knit people into interest in their properties. Everything on the shelf has to have more stuff. And if you have to keep making more stuff to keep people interested, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is it's funny. I was just reading about like what was one of the thematic sources. It was the Wizard of Oz. And like there were so many other ways to go with a possible Tron sequel. The Wizard of Oz would not have been one of them in my estimation. So I honestly think Disney's problem is not that they want to milk every cow and create sequel after sequel after sequel of existing properties. The Lilo and Stitch remake made $1 billion. Things will work if you make them decent enough and find the audience for them. My problem is the people making them don't seem to connect with the products that they're being given to make things out of, nor do they seem to have any clue what the audience wants, Dave. It is a problem going in two directions. They don't seem to know what they should make with it, and they don't seem to be able to connect with an audience. Your thoughts?
In many ways, agreed. Like, I don't think it's so much an issue of like original ideas or recycling old IP. I think it's just quality of the product and understanding of the market. Also, we're spending way too much money on these things. like the days of like we spend 500 million and we make $1 billion. Those are over. Like
I say it every fucking week.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well maybe Avatar 3. Like James Cameron seems to be one of the ones who can
only exception.
Yeah, but otherwise, like. Yeah, unless you get one of those rare hits, like I think just they have to stop expecting like every major franchise to do $1 billion. But I also think like it is good to experiment, to spend money on new things. Like again, don't bet the farm on it, but try something new, and if it works out, then great, you have a new franchise. And if it doesn't work out, then well, you will have other projects that will compensate for that. And that's also like a big story if you look in Hollywood. Like how many like big major film franchises do we have now that like at the time when they were making them, like there were people going like, this is crazy, this is never going to work, we're spending too much money, and then you end up with a smash hit. I do believe like more of the background on this film was I think I think it did do good enough to justify a sequel. Not like great, but good enough.
Oh, yeah, it did 400 million.
Yeah, and they were going to do a sequel, and I think that you can see some of those dangling threads left in the film probably were meant to be tied up in a sequel. Now, it's no way near as bad as how we do like setups for sequels now, where there's the post-credit scenes and the obvious scenes like this will be addressed in a later film.
Yeah,
like when you see
time.
Yeah. No, like you see Tron like fall into the sea, and then he switches back to his blue colors. It's like, yeah, maybe he'll like swim up and he'll come back in the next film, or maybe he just drowns and dies, and that sucks. But Earth is deleted.
Whale.
Yeah, it's like it could go either way. We don't know, but like the door is open for him to come back in a sequel, but we don't know for sure. But I think it was actually Tomorrowland bombing that kind of made the executives go, oh, I think these sci-fi things aren't going to make money. So they scrapped the third film. And
I don't want to spend an hour telling you
whatever
what's wrong with Tomorrowland, but if Tomorrowland had actually been Tomorrowland, it'd have been a lot better. The problem with Tomorrowland is that it was Rent.
Yeah.
It was
a
road trip movie.
Yeah, I've not seen that. I remember listening to your review, but yeah,
Mhm.
well, the important thing is it bombed, and hence
Yes.
while we're here, yeah, I don't need a review of Tomorrowland. So I like as to what Sean was saying before about like original ideas and like how no one can write an original movie. I agree, but at the same time, chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
Like have we've all have had many chocolate chip cookies in our lives, right?
Sure have.
And we are still going to eat more chocolate chip cookies, and we are going to enjoy them. Not because they're like creative and new, because they're fucking delicious.
Mm-hmm.
But
People like a big.
But
if you
ask
point with
anybody,
known IP is that it's familiar to people. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the thing is, if you ask anybody, they will absolutely tell you that yes, there is such a thing as bad chocolate chip cookies. They have had them, and they also can tell you what exactly they liked about the chocolate chip cookies that, while not seemingly that different, made them stand out.
Yes. Yeah. I am working through my metaphor, but you are 100% correct. Yes, the problem is not that we need to stop making chocolate chip cookies. The problem is the people making them are making shit cookies. It's like, hey guys, I have this new brilliant idea. We're going to just break all the paradigms. What if we use like 90% flour?
What if a cookie, but mostly carrots?
Yes. And hey guys, if we replace the chocolate chips with like rat droppings, no one's gonna notice a difference, and like we save so much money. And then, geez, why aren't people eating our cookies anymore? They must be some sort of anti-cookie bigots.
Well, see, now wait a minute. Now, when you talk about replacing the chocolate chip cookies with rat droppings, I think that's how we get the phenomenon of people trying to make so bad they're good movies and trying to do them intentionally.
That was not my intent, but this metaphor can get can go some places.
When you were going through your cookie thing, all I could think about, and this is it, and then we're moving on. We're ending the show. All I kept thinking about was Poochie. Mm-hmm. The character. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was an episode of The Simpsons where they wanted to introduce Itchy and Scratchy had gotten old. They wanted to introduce a new character, and the whole connection to The Simpsons is Homer is going to voice the character. They like his voice, so they're like, "Well, what is Poochie?" Well, we have a cat, we have a mouse, we have to have a dog now. So it starts with that. And then as they keep adding things to the dog, it's like, well, this is popular now, so he has to be a Rastafarian. And this is popular now, so it has to be this. And then Homer's reading dialogue with this character. And it's like, yo, yo, yo. And it's the most awful thing ever. Every kid in the world fucking hates it. And then they have to write Poochie off the show until very famously. And then Poochie went back to his home planet and died.
Poochie died on the way back to his home planet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you've ever watched like the Great British Bake Off at all.
I have not.
A little bit.
Competition baking show. There's just this one episode where like they're all doing cookies, right? It's like you can do whatever cookie. And it's like, oh, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing like mocha infused matcha with a hint of turmeric and like all sorts of like, oh, that sounds really interesting. He goes to the next person. What are you doing? Chocolate chip cookies. He's like, nothing wrong with chocolate chip cookies, but it's a very simple cookie. It's been very established, so it better be the best damn chocolate chip cookie, or like the guy who's trying all the crazy shit over there. Like, we're gonna cut him a bit of slack because he's like going out there, but you're doing the tried and true and. Nothing wrong with doing tried and true, but if you do that, you damn well better get it right. And
gotta nail it.
And that's kind of it. Like if you say, "Oh, this story was, cliched or nothing new," it's like, okay, fine. But if you do it right,
exactly,
still a great movie.
There's plenty. Look, all this year I've said the movies that I've liked were more or less cliched. There were definitely things I'd like that I was like, yeah, I've seen this before. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I think I described a movie recently within the past month. As this was a warm blanket, a plate of chocolate chip cookies and warm milk. Like I say, it was the most. I don't want to go back on my schedule to look right this second, but within the past month, there was a movie I reviewed with Robert where I used that metaphor. I'm like, this was as comforting as a thing and love, and it made me feel good, and it's all I care about because most things upset me now. So with that said, did I hate rewatching Tron Legacy? No. I liked having, it's one of those where I got to experience rewatching it with my kid. I got my kid interested in it. Am I interested in Tron Ares? No, but I am a slave to the schedule. My hope, this is the last thing I'm going to say. My hope is that Tron Ares is just a good movie. And I'm going to say to Robert, if you don't remember, this is the third in a series of these movies focusing on a character that hasn't really shown up since the first one. It's fine. It's really good, actually. However, if you expect like this to be coherent and consistent with the Tron universe, you're going to be sorely disappointed. That is what I hope to say about this movie. What I think I'm going to say is, this is the worst fucking thing I've seen this year, and I've seen a lot of bad shit. So we'll see. I'm holding on to a hero, and I have hope. I have hope, David. Right? I have hope. With that said, court is now in recess, and that is the end of our review of Tron Legacy. Tomorrow, we will be reviewing The Smashing Machine, which I saw today with my kids. Really good. The Rocket's excellent, and I hope he gets a nomination for Best Actor. Wednesday, myself and Alexis, if I finish it on time, will be reviewing Monster Season 3, the Ed Gein story. And then Sean and I, and Kat, again, will be reviewing the Stephen King directed adaptation of the Stephen King short story Trucks, Maximum Overdrive, which I've only seen the first time this past weekend, and whew, what an experience that was. So, a week from tonight, myself, Sean, and Kat again will be getting together, and we'll be looking at both seasons, all 15 or so episodes of Interview with the Vampire. That was Kat's suggestion. A week from tomorrow is the review of Tron Ares. A week from Wednesday is nothing. I will be at Ailstorm with my kids. And then a week from Thursday, myself, Alexis, and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing Alien Earth. David, are you coming on for Tron Ares?
Yes, absolutely.
David, did I put you on? Put you on for Tron Ares?
I believe so. It's in my Google Calendar. So.
That is correct. That is you, Robert. Mac. Mac may or may not show up anymore. He's doing stuff. But yes, you are there, check marked and everything. Good boy, David. Good
All
boy.
right.
So,
yep.
For those of you who love David and just can't stand it, it takes too long in between podcasts, we'll be back next week. Shut the fuck up. Speaking of which,
yeah, and for those of you who hate me, you can come and hate me more.
That's right. Double down on your hatred. David Wright. He drinks your tears. Speaking of drinking tears, Sean, tell them where you'll be twitching and shouting and whatnot.
Hey, so as of right now, it's coming up on about 9:20 p.m. Central Time. Once we get off here, I am going to go smoke a joint, get in a workout, settle in, and then at around 11 p.m. Central Time, I am going to jump on to twitch.tv/Comer Codex and try to round out my Overwatch Battle Pass. I'm going to be on there hopefully much more often in the near future because fact is, times are tough, and I am kind of trying to make some ventures work, and one of them is I would really like to finally commit to getting some steam back behind my Twitch channel. In the meantime, you can also follow me on Instagram and Threads if you like hearing me talk about hockey, video games, wrestling, music, cooking, weed. Trying to kind of work my way towards Ann and I starting our OnlyFans, occasionally talking about the joy of having a joint after a good day at work, and other stuff, so on and so forth. Obviously not kid friendly.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on Trail. For Sean, for David, I have a TikTok to read and have to pee. Be well, be safe, and behave.